This episode of the Big Skip Energy Podcast is brought to you by Highland Mortgage, where your home journey starts and ends with confidence. Whether you're a first-time buyer looking to refinance or ready to move into your dream home, or simply have questions about the market and want a free consultation, Highland Mortgage is here to guide you every step of the way. With personalized mortgage solutions tailored to fit your unique needs, their team of experts make sure you're informed, supported, and empowered in every decision. And here's the best part: Highland Mortgage isn't just about numbers and paperwork, it's about making the process simple, stress free, and even exciting. If you're ready to take that next step, visit highlandmtg.com today and start your journey to home sweet home. Do you want to be successful? Do you want to grow your business? Do you want to dominate the day? Then you're gonna need Big Skip Energy. How are you?
I'm doing great, Skip. It's good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure, man. Now, John, do me a favor. For listeners that have been, tuned into the show, they know who you are from previous, appearances. But for those out there that don't know you, just take a second and introduce yourself, would you?
Yeah, I appreciate it. John McNair, President and CEO of the Community Bankers Association here in Georgia. The association is comprised of about 120 community banks in state, and we have over 200 partner firms that we work with as well. My background is that I've been in and around banking and financial services my entire career before, and albeit here at CBA 6 years in October, which seems like a blink of an eye. I didn't have all this gray hair when I started here either. So
it's like a president before they take office, and then 4 years later when they leave, right?
Exactly. Well, prior to coming here, I worked for the Independent Community Bankers of America, ICBA, out of Washington, D.C. I had responsibility for the member relations group nationwide. So been in the Bank Trade Association business now for 20 years, and that's been a blink of an eye.
Very cool. So I guess that leads me to ask, how did you get into this line of work? 6 years with CBA, 14 years with ICBA. Obviously, it's a passion. It's in your blood. How did you first get involved and say, you know what, this is something that I want to be a part of?
Yeah, well, as I said, I've been in and around the banking industry my entire career. When I first graduated from college, and I'm not going to disclose that year because I'm years ago. I worked for the John Harlan Company, which is now Veracast. So I was on the check printing side, and we worked with banks to offer check printing services to those institutions, and kind of progressed through there in various capacities. I think my passion for community banking really started during a time period in our lives in which my wife and I actually owned our own business. We owned a franchise of a company called Safeguard Business Systems, and we sold forms and checks to banks and their customers. Yeah. And when we first bought the business, we were banking with a larger institution, and the business was struggling. It was an existing business. We knew what we were getting into, but I don't think, we knew how bad things were until you got into it. And my wife at the time was, I'm going to say, 3 to 4 months pregnant, and we were having trouble paying the bills. It was tough. We had an employee, so we had to make sure she got paid before, we put bread on the table for ourselves. And so we went to our larger bank and said, hey, can you help us with what back in the day I called a bridge loan? And, the larger bank had their process. Oh, we need 3 years of tax returns. We need this, we need that. It's like, well, we just bought this business. We're only a handful of months into it. And so we're really despondent. And then one of my customers said, well, you need to go talk to, at the time it's called Pennsylvania State Bank, Bill Friedman and Herb Weidman. And they're a smaller bank. They're a little bit more agile, and, they might be able to help you out. So here we go, walking into Bill Friedman's office, by the way, the president of the bank. Okay. So he was on the floor, walked in, and he could tell that we were distressed. And my wife is becoming very pregnant now from me since she started the show. And we walked out with the funds that we needed to get us through the next 6 months. And I'll never forget that, right? Just that ability to make decisions on site, the adaptability, the flexibility, and really, the caring for us as a younger couple just starting out as business owners. And so that really got me passionate about community banking itself. And then I couldn't even tell you how I found out about the ICBA opportunity, but It might have been on monster.com, is still around.
Right, back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I applied for the job as a member relations officer in the Northeast and started in 2004 and was there until I came here in 2018. So yeah,
Mhm.
but yes, that beginning is where my passion for this industry really started.
That's really interesting because the folks that are in their lines of work for a long period, basically their entire career, because let's just face it, even though it's a different capacity, you're still a banker, right?
Mhm.
So, folks that tend to be in this for a long period of time often have a personal connection with it. That is why they got started. And that kind of is what sustains them throughout because they don't forget that, right? And I think that's really important to remember because, and by the way, side note, I didn't know about your venture before ICBA, so that's something new for me, and we've known each other for a few years now. So, but I think that's really important to remember. It's what kind of pushes you through, and it's also interesting because a lot of people that I interview for this show get their drive or their spark, I guess, from something that they didn't get elsewhere. For example, one of the mortgage originators I had on the show, she got in the mortgage business because she had a really bad experience, right?
Interesting.
And she's like, you know what? I can do better than this, and I'm going to do it. You didn't have a bad experience, but you didn't get your needs met, and so you went where you could, and you say, you know what? That makes a difference. Let's do that. It's funny you say that though about a commercial loan because I know several people who have tried to start businesses and they've gone to see larger banks and they have their guidelines, matrices these days, their AI, whatever the case may be, and they want a startup loan, right? They go in there and they say, okay, well, I need 3 months business bank statements and your last year's tax returns. It's like, what what part of startup did you not understand? Like I literally am getting this money so I can get to work, and I think that there's something to it. That disconnect is a problem, and I think that's where community banking steps in.
One of the things I'm real concerned about for this industry, and you would know this far better than I ever would with your background, is the
Mm.
commoditization
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
of loans. And mortgages have become a commodity, right? And if that happens with commercial loans, that takes that credit decisioning power out of the hands of a local
Mhm.
banker in a local market. And
Yeah.
every small business is different, right? So you cannot commoditize a small business loan. And I still think I do think it's bad to commoditize residential mortgage loans as well.
Well,
So
yeah. If you look at the top firms and top producers, though, they have shifted that conversation from a commodity to a personal touch again, and that's exactly what you're talking about is fixing that issue.
mhm.
Listen, I'm all for AI efficiencies, streamlining that kind of thing. Commercial banking, residential loans, it's all people business when it gets right down to it, right? All right, talk to me a little bit about the CBA in particular, what its real mission is, and why it should matter not only to folks in the industry that may not be familiar with it, or let's just say the community banking advocacy in general, and just to the general public. So let's kind of hit that twofold.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. The association was started almost 56 years ago now. It will be 56 years in next year. And we were really started for a very simple reason to make sure Georgia's community banking industry had its own voice. Yeah,
Hmm.
and we're very fortunate in this country to have a diverse financial system. We've got big banks, we've got regionals, we've got community banks, we've got credit unions, we got mortgage shops. And so having that choice in our financial system is great for the customer. But community banks are different than regional banks. They're different than Bank of America, Wells Fargo, et cetera. And therefore, and that was the case 56 years ago, even more so.
Yeah.
And the community bankers in our state felt like they should have their own voice. And
Mhm.
the prudence of that decision 56 years ago has been shown time and time again. Fairly recently, actually in 2019, we got a piece of legislation passed to allow community banks to use the reciprocal deposit networks to take in municipal deposits versus having to do collateral.
Let Janice that's for us.
And that was a game changer. And that was a real difference in our advocacy approach compared to others. The big banks had all the municipal deposits, so life was good. Community banks, which really should be the institutions that are banking these municipalities, if you think about it, right?
Mhm.
They're local. The municipal is local as well. So why not keep the money local? But it was cost prohibitive. So That bill now has generated over $1 billion of deposits for Georgia's community banking industry, which in turn, they turn around and do what with it? They lend it out at a rate of 75, 80, 85%. So it's generated well over 750 million, 800 million of new loans to small businesses in the Georgia economy. So those are the differences that come up from an advocacy standpoint, that we can firmly stand for the community banking industry versus having to serve a whole lot of, multiple different constituents. Multiple constituent advocacy in anything, I don't care what it is, it does not work. You can see it in our national politics when politicians try to play to multiple sides, et cetera. Single constituent advocacy works much better every time. And that's what we are. We're a single constituent advocate. On top of that too, and you know better than I do, it's a very heavily regulated industry. And we do 65 to 70 educational programs throughout the year on a whole bunch of different topics, not only, lending, leadership development, but your technical topics too, BSA, AML, IRA reporting, et cetera. Anything from a compliance standpoint, we do those educational programs in state for our bankers, so they don't have to travel. We do it cost effectively, et cetera. So those are really the main focuses of the association.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's funny, because you got the banking and mortgage industry, and the only sector that's more heavily regulated is nuclear energy, which is really kind of bizarre to me. But yeah, you think the medical field would be above us. But anyway, so I'm glad you said or spelled it out, because if you're Joe Schmo off the street, right, you say, hey, look, we did this big advocacy movement, it's done this. What is that? But you connected those dots, which is really important and really vital for the average consumer to know why what you do matters, because it helps them out, indirectly. So tell me a little bit, if you can, about how the CBA has evolved through the last, I know obviously you've only been with the group for 6 years, but of course, just in that time, there's been a ton of change. But over the years, with the advent of all the technology that we've had coming into the space, how has your focus and mission changed over that time?
Yeah, the core focus and mission is still the same, which is provide advocacy, high quality education, and products and services.
Yeah,
it's all changed, right? So, a lot stays the same, but there are things that are changing. So we have really devoted a lot of time, energy, and resources into fintech, ag tech, reg tech, et cetera, looking for best in class partner firms across all technology areas to bring as potential solutions for our member banks. Really, the cost of everything is going up.
I hadn't noticed.
So it's the same. Banks are basically, they're just small businesses as well. Their product is money versus pizza or whatever the case may be.
Whatever it is, yeah.
So every business is looking to deliver or enhance the customer delivery experience in a better, faster, cheaper, more economical way. Banks are no different. And so embracing technology to do your back office work more efficiently, process your compliance forms more efficiently, and then also too, help people use their mobile devices to do the banking services that they want to do when they want to do it.
Yeah.
Easier, faster, more efficiently. So we've shifted a lot of our focus from what I would call legacy educational programs to technology-based programs, education, partnerships as well. And it's served our members well. We're very much on the leading edge of that. We have wonderful technology organizations here in Georgia, as well as the National Association. My former employer, ICBA, has an accelerator program here in Atlanta, and we do a ton with them. So I'm very proud of the adaptation of our bankers in Georgia. The average efficiency ratio in Georgia for a community bank, and efficiency ratio is just simply how many dollars do you have to spend to make a dollar, right?
Correct.
It's come down 10% year over year. And that's amazing. That's a game changer for our bankers. So they're able to do things, better, faster, cheaper, and enhance the customer delivery experience from the technology resources they're finding, and then also plugging into the resources that we have in our education.
Yeah. So speaking of education, again, if you're just a consumer on the street, right? How connect those dots for me, because the education piece is something I've been involved with you guys. Y'all do a great job. You all kinds of different things. how does that offering to your member banks, how does that in turn benefit the average Joe?
Well, I'll give you a great example. Fraud.
Yeah.
Check fraud is rampant right now. And so we did not have a fraud education program on the docket January 1 of this year. We have 3 now that we're doing between now and the end of the year. So if we can educate our bankers as to the signs of fraud, what to do about fraud, how to educate their customers about fraud, check fraud, cybersecurity, fraud, attacks, et cetera, that is a direct benefit to the average consumer, right? And so, because look, at some point, the average consumer, well, I shouldn't say that. The average consumer may or may not ultimately get reimbursed somehow.
That's true. It depends on the circumstances.
Right. So if we can teach the consumer what to look for, how to conduct their business better, more effectively, more securely, and actually we can teach our bankers to do that, and then have the bankers teach their customers to do that, we're providing a tremendous service. So cybersecurity is another issue. We've got a massive cybersecurity conference we do every year. October is Cybersecurity Month. So if we can, teach our bankers best practices each and every year on cybersecurity related issues, that's going to lock down their systems and protect the customer data, as you might expect. So that's how it ultimately ties into the, and then there's all the lending programs as well. I mean, you've talked.
Oh yeah, but that obviously goes to bolster the average consumer. So, but no, that's a great example. I love that. Yeah, it's check fraud, wire fraud, all that kind of thing. The better off that your member banks are at helping to identify it, prevent it, the better off the general public is. So,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I'll tell you what. I should have asked you this before. This definition varies. So, do me a favor. Define community bank for the general public. I know I put you on the spot. I'm not going to hold you to it. And for anyone listening that's in banking, don't go after John if it doesn't meet your definition. All right.
So there's the FDIC explanation,
correct,
which is 10 billion in assets and under.
Yeah.
Okay. The problem with that is anything that is,
that's not my definition. I'll just tell everybody right now.
Anything that is targeted, that is set in stone in terms of regulatory markers that are asset based, right?
Yeah.
Right. There's some things that community banks under a certain asset threshold don't have to adhere to. Some things that when they get to a certain threshold, that the problem is banks are continually getting bigger. So if they would have indexed all these things, it'd be a different story. But they didn't, because they want to be able to use that to negotiate with each other, our legislators, every so often when things come up. So the John McNair version is, I firmly believe that anything under 50 billion in assets certainly should be considered as a community bank. Now, I will tell you that having worked up in northern New Jersey, New York City, the metro areas, I can show you banks that are 8, 10, 15, 20 billion dollars in asset size. And if you look at their balance sheets, right, if you look at the type of loans on their balance sheets, they are typical community bank assets. They're not doing derivative trading,
right,
or anything ridiculous like that. But the average home price of a house in northern New Jersey is a lot more than what it is.
It's like defining first-time home buyer in my world, right? It's that price point's a little different in Georgia than it is out in California. It's the same.
Exactly. So that's why I just think using a hard and fast definition is not it's not the best way to define it. To me, it was always sitting down with the bank CEO and asking him or her about their philosophy for the business.
Yeah. I love the fact that you brought up the balance sheet and what comprises of it, because that takes away just from the nuts and bolts, but it also goes into how do you conduct your business? How do you bank your customers? And that drives it more than a call report. So
I definitely feel that way. Definitely.
I love that. So let's talk about the team there at CBA. Obviously, I've gotten to know y'all pretty well over the last several years. Y'all have some new faces, some shifting responsibilities, just like any other organization. But y'all got a really good team there. I want to shift focus just from the CBA's mission just for a second. Hey, because this is a business development podcast too, right? So let's just talk in terms of leadership and team. What do you think? You've got people from all kinds of different backgrounds, ages, everything. How do you think that's come together, and what are the benefits of having the team that you've got put together right there as far as executing your mission day to day?
Yeah, I think, it takes a little while, but I think we all realize what our strengths and weaknesses are.
For sure.
For example, we send out a weekly publication, our newsletter every Wednesday morning. Went out this morning, right?
Yep.
They never sent it to me to prove it because I am not a detailed reader.
Yeah.
Whereas Connie and Lori will look at every word in it, right? Christy Greer, as you know, is a 20-year community banker. She has a master's in education. Lori was a former regulator with the Department of Banking and Finance. And I'm gonna brag on Lori a little bit for a second here, as well as the organization. We were just ranked the 14th most effective association in the State House for advocacy work. So that's
Really? I did not know that. Okay. Very cool.
There's a lot of associations in Georgia, and to be ranked number 14 was really an achievement.
That's a good feather for your cap right there.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that. So that means that the legislators and the administration people are understanding who we are, what we do, and what our what our differences are between other financial trades. So that's real important to us. But everybody here has a different skill set, and the best thing is the CEO. The best thing that I do every day is stay out of their way and just simply say, what resources do you need to get your job done? And then I'm the main liaison with our executive committee and the board, et cetera. So I'm the guy that's got to go ask for money or for approval for things that we want to do. But they are, it's a great group of people. I'm very proud of all of them and what we get done here. We're a 9-person shop.
Yeah, small group, small business, right?
We're lean and mean. Yeah, so I'm very proud of what we do here.
Very good. Yeah, Lori does a great job. She's very visible. I've really enjoyed working with her. Everybody there I've always had a positive experience with. So that's very cool. It's a good group. All right, so just some situations that the general public should really be sure that they don't have any misconception on, right? Let's first and foremost hit up the technology piece. We talked a little bit about that earlier. You mentioned it, but one of the big things is, let's just talk back in the day. You say, hey, I'm going to bank with big XYZ bank because they got branches everywhere. Well, let's be honest. Today, that's not really a mandatory thing. Instead, it's shifted to, hey, can I do my banking wherever I am to the capacity that I need? And the conception among a lot of people or perception, I should say, is that I can't bank with a community bank because they don't give me the tech that I need to be able to effectively do my day-to-day business. And that's simply not the case. And I'd like you to talk to everybody about that for a second.
I think that was probably a fairer statement. I'm going to say 7, 8, 9 years ago. It's not the case today. I can tell you, having been in this industry for 20 years, I've really seen the evolution. And I would say this over probably my last couple of years at ICBA and all my 6 years here. So I'm going to say the last 7, 8 years, I have never seen so many banks upgrade their core processors and implement the amount of technology that they're implementing and continue to implement. So really, I think when you think of a community bank, I would suggest that people look at a community bank as a high touch, high service financial services entity that also has all the technology for you to conduct your banking any way you want to do it. Whether it's Zelle or I don't care, virtually all the community banks have all of those capabilities. The bank that we bank with certainly does. And we have a couple of accounts. I still have an account with a bank in Pennsylvania that, we have, my wife and I have an account here, but a good friend of mine is the CEO of a bank in Pennsylvania. And whenever we do our transactions there, I'm in Georgia, I'm not in Pennsylvania, and it's very easy. So I would tell people that, I would say this too, especially small business customers, you want a relationship with a banker. And I think if PPP, if you didn't understand that from PPP, you're never going to get it because customers,
all banks stepped in. They stepped up.
Customers that went to the larger institutions that wanted to get a PP and needed a PPP loan fast and quickly weren't so lucky. Customers that were banking at a community bank were able to get a small, the PPP loan very efficiently and quickly. So that's use of technology. That's also that high touch, high service Having the relationship banking model still works, especially it works even in this day and age of all this technology.
Yeah. I think that it's really also important for consumers to realize that, yeah, a lot of these, especially the smaller banks, right? You're under $1 billion in assets, you're true like small town community bank, right? Their mobile banking, that kind of thing, may not have the bells and whistles like an AI assistant or something like that. But you know what? It's got everything else you need. So for you to do your day-to-day stuff, that's going to be 99+% of what you do day in and day out. You can always get that from a community bank. I think that's important to remember. And I know we touched on this previously at the start with lending, but the prevalence of online lending has made, to me, is a blessing and a curse. I think it's really opened up an opportunity for community banks to say, hey, look, this is our value. You're frustrated with that, don't know what the hell they're asking for, don't know this, that, you got turned down, don't know why really. Use my example, they're asking for stuff that's like, are you talking to a brick wall? This is an opportunity for banks to step up and meet that need. And I think it's not going to be for everybody, but hey, you know what? It's a good opportunity. Are you seeing a lot of that?
We are. There's no doubt about it. Again, I just think it marries this. It marries a transaction relationship with a relationship banking model, and to me that's the best of both worlds. Yeah, definitely seeing that
for sure. So, looking forward to 2025. What's CBA got on the horizon as far as its focus and efforts next year?
Well, the legislative session kicks off our year. We have a 40-day legislative session here in Georgia, and there's a lot of topics. As a matter of fact, we have a advocacy committee meeting next week in which we're going to outline for the committee some of the opportunities, some of the challenges that we're facing in the State House. So first part of the year, it's all about the legislative session. So Lori's down at the State House quite a bit. I'm down there a fair amount as well. So we'll be, there's some things that we would like to see happen, a lot of things we don't want to see happen. So we'll be advocating accordingly. And then our education programming really kicks into high gear. And again, so we
all year long, y'all got just a ton going on for education. So
we are, again, 65, 70 educational programs. And that doesn't include you've attended, our Top Golf events, our clay shoots, our advocacy related events. So, again, we're pretty busy shop all year round. So, I think the other new initiative that we rolled out that we're very proud of, and it's actually really starting to gain some traction, is a health insurance captive.
Okay.
And so we've launched that a few years ago. Actually, we launched it during COVID, so it made things a little harder to get it going. But we're going to have 4 or 5 banks start up with that January 1. So getting them onboarded and into that program is a big deal for us.
It's a big deal.
A big deal for them as well. So we're very
that initiative should increase membership. As far as just different banks looking to be a part of what y'all offer. I think it's going to be a really good thing. I didn't know that, so that's cool.
Health insurance costs keep going up, and we've got a great program to bend the curve down a little bit. So we're very excited about it.
Very cool. All right. So, John, as we draw down a little bit on time, I want to ask you a couple of questions. You're an avid golfer, yes?
Yes.
All right. First of all, what's your handicap?
I'm a 2 index. So that means I shoot anywhere between, I'm going to say 75 and 80.
Okay. All right. So that's pretty strong coming from a 120 golfer. So, but no, that's good. So, okay. What lessons has golf taught you that help you day to day leading the CBA?
God, boy, that's an easy one. It's about the next shot.
I love it.
It's always about the next shot. I don't care if the shot you just hit was a really good one. I don't care if the shot you hit was a really bad one. You got to go play the next shot until you're off the hole. Yeah, it's all about
like for me, I would have gone. It teaches you to not break things whenever you get upset. Being really expensive, but no, that's an awesome analogy. I love that. All right, now this is something else I wanted to ask you about that I didn't really realize. Now I don't want to butcher this name. All right, this is the Order of
Ishinru.
Okay, thank you. All right, so you're very involved in martial arts then.
I am.
Did not know that about you.
Yeah. I've been active in martial arts for over 20 years. I'm a 2nd degree black belt in the Order of Ishinru, which is traditional Okinawan karate. And I also study modern arnis, which is a Filipino art, and another system called Chi Jitsu, I have rank in both of those, not Don rank, which is black belt rank, but rank in both of those as well. I am a sensei. I have students, so I teach when we can get to, I travel a lot, they travel a lot. So when we get together, we teach, and they're younger than me, so they beat me up
That's
a
okay.
little bit. And
That's all right. How did you get into that? Like what? Obviously, you're passionate about it, especially because you're branching out into other forms and disciplines. So, how'd you get into it?
well, I think how a lot of people get into it, especially I got started later in life. I wish I started when I was 12, 13 years old.
Sure. Yeah.
But my wife and I have one child, a daughter who's now 28. And when she was old enough, I really wanted her to understand and get some self-defense training.
Mm-hmm.
So we found an instructor. We were living in Pennsylvania at the time, and she was in it for about 2 years until soccer and basketball really start to, take her interest, tennis, other things. And so I just kind of remained in it. And the instructor and I are, very close friends, and we're about the same age. And so I just kind of stayed with it. Yeah. So it was about starting my daughter into a self-defense program, which I think basic self-defense, I teach self-defense classes for some of our partner firms. It's extremely important today, important today. So I'm very passionate about the self-defense training.
So what is it that you like about it? What's kept you going all these years in it?
You just continue to push yourself.
Mhm.
It doesn't get any easier, especially, again, when you get older. It's, you don't, people say, well, you're a black belt, you've arrived. It's like, no.
The competition arises with you. So yeah.
Well, there's
Challenges.
multiple levels of black belt. I'm kind of low on the spectrum as a second degree. I'm actually really starting to learn the cool stuff now. The first, you kind of learn the basics and master the basics, then you start learning the cool stuff. So it's an evolution. It's continuous learning. So that's what I like about that. And I like that about golf too. I'm always like trying to improve, always trying to get better, always trying to hit it a little bit further, cut a little bit better. So I like that.
You're competing against yourself.
Yeah. I like that challenge of always try to, do something better and get better.
I love it. So, John, in case anyone wants to learn more about you, the CBA, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, CBA of Georgia, CBAofGA.com is our website. And look us up, give us a shout. And if we can do anything for anyone, please let us know.
All right, John, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, bud. Thanks again for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. This episode of the Big Skip Energy Podcast is brought to you by Highland Mortgage, where your home journey starts and ends with confidence. Whether you're a first-time buyer looking to refinance or ready to move into your dream home, or simply have questions about the market and want a free consultation, Highland Mortgage is here to guide you every step of the way. With personalized mortgage solutions tailored to fit your unique needs, their team of experts make sure you're informed, supported, and empowered in every decision. And here's the best part. Highland Mortgage isn't just about numbers and paperwork. It's about making the process simple, stress-free, and even exciting. If you're ready to take that next step, visit highlandmtg.com today and start your journey to home sweet home.